Morning, y'all. Right, school run, kick us off this morning. We're going to talk gap testing today. I reckon this is the most underrated skills test idea of a lesson in our profession as a golf pro. It's just so ignored. And it shouldn't be. There's so much you can learn from this. Do you know what gap testing is, though?
Isn't it the thing where it shows how far it goes and the direction?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Right, I'm here at Torquay and I'm going to do my own gap testing. So I'm going to hit shots each club, show you the numbers, show how it changes, show you what you could learn from these kind of sessions. Now I'm going to start with my 46. If I was doing this properly for myself, I would use my 1656. Just for the time I've got, I'm going to start at this part of the bag and move up. We'll talk about what we could do with wedges later on in the video. So I'm hitting a series of shots through my bag. I'm using the ball I game and I'm putting a swing on it that I would feel gets not the most out of this club, but I get, near the top end. Does get a little hot doing this. That rinky was funny. The numbers on that are crazy. Now I'm going to hit my fairway with 3-wood from the ground because that's where I would play it mainly from. I already know my numbers from the tee to the ground, so they're very similar, subject to if I get the right strikes here. You would definitely need to be thinking about if you're hitting this from the tee or ground. If you hit this from the tee more than you do than the ground, don't do it from the ground. Find out a few numbers from the ground, but you need to find out what your gaming shot is. Obviously finding both, which we'll talk about later on in the video, is just as important as well. Did you finish with that? What? Yes, 3 what? I'm done. Let's go and check these numbers out. Right, we have the data here. So here is my gap test. First thing, which is fun, we're going to talk about what you can learn from this, what's so important, but look how it branches out for me. And this is a common pattern, so it stays quite close at the start and it trees out as you go up through the bag. Basically it starts spreading more left to right. Big common patterns that you see with gap tests is generally there's one side miss as you start going further on, and then you start seeing short and long misses where you start to get clubs crossing over, which we'll come to. So even on my gap test here, you're seeing a branching out, which kind of just plays back into the strokes gained idea, doesn't it? Up to my 7-iron here is all very tight, and then it just starts getting short and long, left and right as it goes out. If I can get within a 7-iron and below's distance all the time, I'll do it every shot, every hole if I could. Now in the video there you'll see I hit a few shots where I take my hands off the club, so as we go through the data you'll see I do discard ones. I don't want to know how a skank 5-iron or 7-iron goes, how far it goes. I want to know medium to good hits. Now you could get as complex as you want in a gap testing, which we'll talk about as we go on, but you could hit medium shots, soft 7-irons, hard 7-irons, really dial down to those intricate numbers depending on how much time you've got. But let's play more with just your basic idea of a gap test. So lesson number 1 that's just massive for people when you do gap testing, and I know lots of people might struggle with this one, but every pro watching this video knows exactly what I'm saying. Anyone who's ever worked in a golf shop knows exactly what I'm saying or about to say. More often than not, you don't hit it a distance, you tell us you hit it. I'm sorry. Now I know that's going to hurt a lot of people, but what happens, people's distances are generally based on a hole they play. So there is a 150-yard par 3 which they play and they hit their 7-iron. Thus they hit their 7-iron 150. Well, they're not taking into account any of the bounces generally, any of the slope, or how fast or soft that hole generally plays. They work it off a kind of an eco-friendly type hole, and then they build everything off there. My general patterns when I did lots of gap testing, when I was coaching lots, is that people were often very disappointed. Even the questions along the lines of, is this launch monitor correct, would come into play. So that's lesson number 1. You need to know these distances. All the distances I've got here in front of you are my carry distances. So lesson number 2, I'm going to learn how far I carry each club. Then I'm going to work into that its land angle, thus then how far I might expect that club to run or not, which will always be a bit of a guessing game, but the number I need to know for foremost number is how far is that club travelling for me, and then is there any gaps in between. And if I look at my numbers, there's a slight gap between the 46 and the 9-iron, so it's a 14-degree average difference. So definitely for me, my 46, I could possibly just bend it a little bit strong. I've been feeling that in my numbers recently. The 124 yardage, I'm having to hit soft wedges, soft 9s or hard wedges. I'm feeling that. Again, I don't see it much as a problem because of how tight that is down at the bottom for direction. So I feel I can control the path as you get down into these tight, close to target numbers. But something I might think about. And then as I go out through the bag, I'm seeing around an 8 to 12 yard difference in gaps. And then the biggest noticeable difference, lesson number 2, that you get when you do gap testings with people is they often come in wanting to do a lesson on their driver because they hit a few out of bounds and that stings. But when you look through their bag, you start seeing huge bunches when you get past the 7-iron. So what I mean by that is that their 6-iron, 5-iron, 4-iron if they carry one, hybrid, all start really bunching up together where there's actually no discerning distance in average because of the drop-offs they get when they miss striking. And I see a little bit of that in some ways when I go between my 5-iron, 6-iron and hybrid. So 6-iron is 170, 169 topping out at 175. 5-iron tops out at 183. So those numbers kind of add up. My average is 179 to 169 and that's with a 153 taken out in there. But then if we take that up to my rinky dinks, it goes 198. So it's a big jump up to my rinky. So 5-iron and 6-iron can get a little close. And then my 23-degree hybrid just pushes on. Now, my 183 good 5-iron to my 200-yard 23 degrees at 17 yards difference is again slightly too big. So really I could look at maybe just squeezing a bit more if I wanted to out of that 5-iron, and where I would do that is probably looking at trying to improve launch and spins, those kind of things, which is what the rinky does for me. And if you look at the peak heights from the rinky dinks, it peaks height at 35 yards compared to 31 with the rinky dinks. So I can get some down in 20s, you know, in the 27 yard peak heights from the 5-iron. 5-iron arguably for me, and the same, this is what you see in lots of gap fittings, it starts bunching up there. The trouble is for me, I like to get my 5-iron under trees and that kind of thing, so I still need that element to it. To my bag. I wouldn't want to replace it with another hybrid because I do feel like it's just going to pop up in the air when I don't want it to. So maybe something like a TMB 5-iron might be a game changer, could make me play that 5-iron more. Then the other thing I do a lot, which you've got to remember, is I do drop back with my rinky. That's me hitting my rinky at a distance. I know I can hit my 23-degree hybrid from 170 up to 210 if I want to, going both sides of that 200 standard flight, if you like, with it. So it's about filling those gaps at the top where for lots of people you are going to see they really start to bunch up, and you see it even still a little bit with me. And a good rule of thumb for lots of people, you're looking for around 8 to 15 yards gapping difference between each club. When I start to see a 20-yard gap, I want to know if I can fill that hole with skill, playing softer shots, ones I enjoy, or can my equipment really step up and help me in those situations. And then we finish at my driver, carrying, if anyone was interesting, at 270 average. Sorry, what did you say? 270 you say? Shoulder my turn. So your basic gapping ideas are going to be so crucial for you playing better golf, hitting more greens, understanding what clubs to play. But there's some more information that you can take from this that would really help you start to understand how to get around a golf course, possibly even when it's going a little bit wrong as well. So what a gap test will really show you as well, which is another second key feature that people forget, is the patterns of each club. So I can see when I go down to my shorter irons, there's no pattern, they're pretty much straight on the line, and then as we go longer it tends to leak to a little bit to the right with the odd big left miss in there. So the power hybrid's got a big left, the Freewood's got a big left, and then the driver's pretty straight to some leaks to the right. I could use that information to play better golf. when I'm not hitting it as well, if I know, and I've said this in the past in other videos, general rule of thumb is my 23-degree hybrid will tend to draw a little bit, my hybrid will tend to cut a little bit. Why would I fight that? Why work on fighting those ideas? I'm always, with the amount I play and get to practice, which is far less than people believe, I'm going to just use those. As long as I know what the clubs will do more often than not, I will play those patterns. And when I do gap fittings with loads of golfers, you see real patterns, like massive patterns. So a great example, I used to teach, you know, generally when you teach a lot, you teach lots of people who cut the ball. Person comes to a lesson, how often do you play? Twice a month. How often do you get to practice? Once every 2 weeks, so not much. Show me a driver, slice, 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 all right of target. But like a real tight bunching. Like, you know, you could really throw like a handkerchief over where they've all gone. This player hates that they slice it because they see it as a bad shot because it's right of target. You ask them where they're aiming, well, they're aiming at target, trying to hit from the inside and get a draw. You do a bit of experiments with them to see if they can hit a draw, but then what you do is you get them aiming 10 yards left, playing for their cut. Think about Colin Montgomery. He wasn't bad, was he? We watched him in Mauritius aiming at the trees, trying to cut it on a par 5 that he could reach into, where blatantly it was a draw hole. He just played his cut, just took it close to the trees, cut it into the middle of the fairway. He was one of the only players we watched all week who could hit that green into. He played what he had. You get this golfer aiming 10 yards left and that handkerchief now's all over the target. They say, yeah, well, that's all great, but that's not an improvement, is it? Well, they're all on target now. Sometimes playing your patterns rather than fighting them is just a fantastic weapon. The trouble is, if you don't do a gap testing, you don't know your patterns that well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think. I've done an interesting little poll on Twitter. Let's show you the results. So who has had a gap testing as we stand at the moment? 67% say no, 33% say yes. Who has had a lesson before? 80 to 20 saying yes. Gap testings can make your lessons loads smarter. Pros, if you're watching this, I'm sure you already do them, but if you don't, just get your gap testings advertised. Not enough of amateur golfers know how far they've hit each club, realistically. Sorry. And then also don't really understand their patterns with each club, where I could take you to any tour event, any decent standard of player, they're going to say, look, this 3-wood's good, but it tends to cut a little bit, so I'm going to aim up the left. They're not always fighting the bad shot. I sometimes feel a little bit like amateurs want to fix things. Some things don't need fixing. Some things you can play with. Post comments down below. Let me know what you think. Will you go for a gap testing or not? Have you had one already? Did it help you? Did you just look at gapping or did you look at patterns as well? Hopefully if you are going for one, definitely try and learn about the patterns, even if the coach or the person is just going to try and show you the distance. So much great information to be learned from a good gap testing. See you all on Friday. I'm away the next 2 days in London for a couple of meetings. There's still some fun videos. We've got a buggy time going up tomorrow. Yes, don't we all love a bit of buggy time?